live. Welcome into a live edition of Dolphins Today. Fired up to be with you because we've got a ton to talk about as we enter Week 18. And basically, it's like an AFC title game. Not even basically. It is AFC title game against the Bills. So we're going to preview that one and catch you up on the latest news and rumors surrounding the Aqua and Orange as we always do. And our favorite Ask Anything Wednesday mailbag edition. Let's get it going. We got a lot of people in the chat all ready to go, and I love it. I was a little nervous because I only saw a couple of people waiting around to join a live edition of Dolphins Today. And I thought, is everybody still down about that beatdown in Week 17 against the Ravens? Of course not. We're ready to turn the page. We're ready to bounce back. We're ready to wake up. The season comes down to one game, Week 18 against a division rival in the Buffalo Bills. Wouldn't want it any other way. And as we always do, rep your city. Let me know where you're watching from. Shout it out in the comments. And let's get some shout-outs going right away. And right after that, I got a little surprise for everybody. So don't go anywhere. Big surprise on a live Dolphins Today. But first, I want to say hello to Derek Washington, Mario Gonzalez, Joseph Morales, Richard Agosto, Sherry May. Hello, Sherry May, one of the realest of the real. Kristen Reinhardt, what's going on? Kristen Reinhardt, love your comment because then I don't have to say it. The like police doesn't have to get out here, but as Kristen mentioned in the comments, like the video if you haven't already. We got over 50 people watching and only 13 likes, and I love when Kristen or somebody, whoever in the chat, does my job for me. So yes, like the video. Say hello to Chef Zhu. What's happening? Brian Miller, repping the 305. Daryl Randall from Riviera Beach, live in the chat. That's what I'm talking about. Fins 209. Oh, easy with that comment there, saying Tua needs to go. We're going to discuss some of Tua's numbers and what I think is a golden opportunity to exercise some demons. But before we go any further, I got to give a huge shout out to one of our today's presenting sponsors, helping make Dolphins Today possible, and that is Factor Meals. Folks, there's no better time than now to start making choices that lead to success, and all that can be helped with Factor. My friends, they've got chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. Over 35 meals to choose from. And my goodness, it's as convenient as it gets. They're delivered straight to your door. Only take 2 minutes to heat up. And you skip the grocery store, you skip the cleaning up, you skip all the meal prepping and everything else. All you got to do is head to factormeals.com/FinsChat50, and that's where we've got 50% off waiting for you. Once again, use that code FinsChat50 at factormeals.com/FinsChat50 to get 50% off. And what do I always tell you? We love you and we care about you. So that link's going right in the chat, and all you have to do is click on it. We'll also put it in the description as well. Factormeals.com/FinsChat50 for 50% off. And because we've got multiple partners here at Dolphins Today by Chat Sports, also got to give a huge shout out to Game Time, keeping us on the air and the lights on here at the studio. Game Time, the only ticketing app that you need, because I'm telling you, it takes all the stress out of buying tickets for live events. So the playoffs are coming up. You got to get to Hard Rock Stadium for this Week 18 showdown against the Buffalo Bills. Game Time is the only app that you need. Download the Game Time app, and when you use that code, FinsChats on the bottom right of your screen there, or right up there, how about that? That's when you know Jack's on top of things. FinsChat gets you $20 off when you download the Game Time app. Terms do apply, but take the stress out of buying tickets. That's where Game Time comes in. And last but certainly not least, I've been telling you about Prize Picks for months now, and it's the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, and it happens at prizepicks.com/CLNS. That's where we've got a $100 deposit match waiting for you. And I don't want to brag. You guys know I'm a humble guy, right? But my prize picks for the Dolphins last game, even though it wasn't pretty on the field, my prize picks hit. So if you wanna follow me, hey, there are my picks right on the screen for this coming game. Or you can fade me if you don't believe in me. But I usually simply pick more or less on a player's projected stat line, and that's where the fun begins. You don't need any complicated Excel spreadsheet or anything like that. You just pick more or less. So I'm picking more on Tua's projected passing yardage, more on Tyreek Hill's projected receiving yards, and less on Stephon Diggs' receiving yards. I think Jalen Ramsey's going to lock him down. But shout out to all of our presenting sponsors that help make this program possible. Shout out to Factor, Prize Picks, and of course, Game Time as well. Now, want to ask right away, how are we feeling about this Week 18 matchup? Because all the narratives are out there, all the naysayers, all the negativity. I've read your comments on the YouTube, on the Twitter, everything else, Instagram, you name it. Dolphins faithful not feeling the best after that waxing that the Ravens put on in Week 17. But it's important to be able to bounce back in the National Football League, and that's what this Dolphins team needs to do in the season finale, the regular season finale. Now, of course, a playoff spot has been clinched by the Dolphins, so they're in no matter what. But, man, would it be great to be the number 2 seed with a win over the Buffalo Bills and AFC East Divisional champs as well. So let me know how everyone's feeling. Want to say hello to Chad Jones in the chat, Joseph Morales, Sherry May, Jared Murray, everybody joining this edition of Dolphins Today. And now it's time for the big surprise. Drum roll. I got to welcome in Jack Lotteray. Let's freaking go. I didn't tell Jack that I was going to do that, but you guys know Jeremy Chugg's usually with me on our live Wednesday shows, but the gods have bestowed upon us the blessing of Jack Lotteray's company with us here on Dolphins Today, a live edition. Jack, I got to ask you, man, how are you feeling on a Wednesday?
Well, I'm going to tell you what. The Dolphins got to do something. That's all I'm going to say. They got to figure this out. I'm feeling okay, cautiously optimistic. They're playing at Hard Rock. They got a good record. We'll see what happens. Jake, I had to make it up to you because I'm not going to be here on Sunday.
No, say it ain't so.
So I had to make it up to Dolphins Today, all the Dolphins fans.
You had to get some Dolphins in your life.
I had to get a Dolphins live in this week, so I'm here on Wednesday. I will not be here on Sunday because I'm going to be in Houston for the National Championship. But I will be tuning in. I will be watching, and we're going to have a good time.
There is no doubt about it. So shout out to Jack Lotteray. That's great stuff. And we got a few more shout outs to get to in the comments. What up, Chef Zhu? Let's go, Dolphins. And a Happy New Year. Yes, I think it's important to wish everybody a Happy New Year. And according to Curb Your Enthusiasm, the third day of January, and Larry David says that's the last day you can wish somebody a Happy New Year. So Happy New Year to every single subscriber of Dolphins Today. We're getting close to 54K, my friends, and that is a testament to each and every one of you. So if you haven't yet, you're watching, you think, what's this Dolphins Today all about? Hey, we got a great deal. It's absolutely free, and we bring you Dolphins content every single day. We bring you the latest Dolphins news and rumors, which we have a lot to get to on that front as well. And then, oh, by the way, we've got the best watch parties known to man. So if you can't be at the game, the next best place is to join Dolphins Today for our live watch parties. And we got some fun things planned for Week 18 in that AFC East title deciding game against the hated Buffalo Bills. All right. Also, if you want to get your questions in for the mailbag, producer Jack will be all over those as well using that hashtag Dolphins. But that being said, you got to be honest with me. Everything comes down to Week 18. How you feeling in a Dolphins win? Scale it for me in your confidence level 1 through 10. Because I was thinking about this on my walk-in to Chat Sports HQ today. I'm thinking maybe, the Bills have had the Dolphins number. The Dolphins haven't looked good against Buffalo. Maybe they don't match up well against them. But then I got to thinking, it's Week 18. It's a win, and you clinch the division title scenario where all you have to do is go out and win at home, defend Hard Rock Stadium. Then I started to think maybe we find out really what this team is made of. We find out how much heart this Miami Dolphins team has. We find out that if they can put to bed the narrative surrounding this team, they can't beat good teams. It's time to squash that. And Hard Rock Stadium, what a place to do that, where they've been really, really good this year. In fact, 19-3 over the last 22 games, which we'll get to in our preview as well. But before we can get it going, you guys know the drill. You got to like the video so that we can reach more and more Dolphins fans out in the YouTube world. So let me know by liking the video. Let me know that you love the Dolphins by liking the video. We're up to 34 likes, but we got 81 people watching. How is that possible? We've got to get to 50 before we go any further. And you guys know producer Jack's a stickler with stuff like that. So help me out. Don't make me get the like police out here. You heard Kristen in the chat earlier. It's real simple. It takes less than 2 seconds to like that video. And we sure do appreciate it here at Chat Sports because, listen, if there's ever been a time where Dolphins fans need to stick together, it's right now because it wasn't pretty on Sunday against the Ravens, and there's no time to feel sorry for ourselves. There's no time to lick the wounds. There's only time to move forward, turn the page, and get into playoff mode a week early to defend Hard Rock Stadium and get that win. Now, yes, so we do have a new segment to get into. We know Tyreek Hill's house was on fire. Nobody was hurt in that. We're going to start with that. So, yes, I understand that there's a lot going on outside of the actual on-the-field performance and practice and injury updates, this, that, and the other. We are going to get to that. In fact, we're starting with that. So once we get up to 50 likes on the video, we will get some segments going. But yes, well aware of everything that's going around with the Miami Dolphins. Mike McDaniel spoke earlier today. All the Dolphins beat writers have been all over the story as well. So we will definitely touch on that. We've got all the graphics prepared for it. In fact, there's nothing to worry about
there.
Get
away, Greg.
Everybody's safe.
Get away, Greg. He totally just mentioned it, so.
Oh, that's all right. Getaway Greg is a typical.
I
He's
know,
always
I'm
upset.
I got to defend you, my
No
guy.
need to defend. It won't hurt my feelings. But all right, we're up to 45 likes, and what do we got? We've got 93 people watching. Let's get into it to make Getaway Greg happy and satisfied like we know what we're talking about here on Dolphins Today. Let's do it right now on this edition of Dolphins Today. Welcome into Dolphins Today. I am your host, Jake Riepma, and we begin with breaking news that we are still uncovering every detail associated with what's going on. But Dolphins star wide receiver Tyreek Hill, we know he's just been absolutely incredible all season long, leading the NFL with over 1,700 yards receiving. But some unfortunate news surrounding the Dolphins star wide receiver today. According to WSVN Channel 7 News in Miami, firefighters battling a fire at the home of Miami Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill. And the images are a little bit disturbing. You see the mansion on fire there. The good news is it has been confirmed that nobody was injured. Nobody was in the house. And Tyreek Hill is aware of the situation. In fact, the Miami Dolphins he left practice from the Miami Dolphins facility and was with his wife, Kita Vaquera, and the two of them obviously were assessing the situation while in a very safe manner. So nobody was in the house at the time of the fire. Firefighters on the scene, as well as the authorities determining a cause and ensuring that there's no more hot spots and things of that nature associated with the fire. But it is under control at this time. And really unfortunate news surrounding the Dolphins star wide receiver. But I think the good thing is that nobody was injured in the fire and nobody was inside at the time of the fire. So unfortunate there, but it is news that associates with the Miami Dolphins and their star wide receiver, Tyreek Hill. And with that said, I think it's important to note that nobody was in the house at the time of the fire. Nobody was hurt. And at this point, now it becomes assessing the damage and moving on from there. Now, other news surrounding the Miami Dolphins. They did work out multiple free agents this week in preparation for that Week 18 showdown against the Buffalo Bills. So a number of different free agents worked out for the Dolphins, starting with T.J. Carter, the defensive end. He was undrafted out of Kentucky in 2020, where he then signed with the Arizona Cardinals. And what's interesting about T.J. Carter is he was able to kind of continue his career and really provide some solid production for the Michigan Panthers in the UFL, where he registered 24 tackles and 2.5 sacks in just 9 games. And then in 2022, he did play in 2 games for the Rams, but did not record a stat. So when you think about some of the injuries that have happened with the Dolphins, specifically to that defensive end position, T.J. Carter could be a guy that the Dolphins sign here in the coming days. Now, that being said, he, again, undrafted free agent out of Kentucky in 2020, and not exactly a showstopper per se, but certainly someone that the Dolphins could add for depth reasons. So, now, that being said, I need your help. Would you like the Dolphins to beat the Buffalo Bills? Of course you would. So like this video. You don't want to be the one to jinx it. Don't just click past. You got to like the video. It's scientifically proven to help the Miami Dolphins win, and we need your help for that Week 18 game against the Buffalo Bills. Dolphins also entertained a couple of others, including Davion Nixon, who's 25 years old and was a 2021 fifth-round pick out of Carolina. He did end up playing in 14 games with the Panthers, where he registered 15 tackles and half a sack, but he was released in 2023 by the Panthers. Seattle picked him up immediately, but then released him also, as he did not register any production for the Seattle Seahawks. So another guy that could add some depth to the defensive line and more of an interior guy playing at the defensive tackle position. On the offensive side, the Dolphins worked out B.J. Wilson, an offensive tackle who's 25 years old, also undrafted and a free agent by the Panthers. He attended Quincy University. You probably never heard of Quincy University. It's a Division II institution in Illinois, and I only add this because he's the only player to ever reach the NFL from Quincy. And what's also interesting, he was waived by Carolina prior to the beginning of the season. You guys know I played a little ball in my day. I played against the Quincy Hawks way back in the day and made the 13-hour bus hike from my school to Quincy University. But shout out to B.J. Wilson in Quincy University. He was one of the guys that the Dolphins worked out this week on the offensive line side of things. So that being said, majority of these guys would be added for depth purposes, most likely practice squad guys. But if you had to pick one to sign, let me know in the comments. If you want T.J. Carter, type T.J. If you want Nixon, go ahead and type D.N. Or if B.J. Wilson's who you want to add to the offensive line, obviously they've been decimated with injuries all season long, go ahead and type B.J. For me, it's real simple. The defensive line needs a lot of help, and it's not because of a lack of production. It's simply because the lack of bodies that are left available because of all the injuries. And we know the latest chip to fall there is Bradley Chubb, but the interior defensive line also not a ton of depth. Zach Zeeler, who actually missed practice today with an illness, should be fine by the time Sunday comes around, has been having a hell of a season, as has Christian Wilkins. But Raekwon Davis and Deshaun Hand haven't really played a ton behind them. And if you've watched Hard Knocks, you know Zach Zeeler and Christian Wilkins are the salt and pepper that make this defense go, but there hasn't really been a lot of depth behind them. Emmanuel Ogbah and Melvin Ingram will have increased roles more on the edge side of things as outside linebackers, of course, with Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips gone for the rest of the season. Jalen Phillips blew the Achilles against the Jets on Black Friday. Bradley Chubb tore the ACL against the Ravens in Week 17. So that means Andrew Van Ginkel and Emmanuel Ogbah, throw in Melvin Ingram there as well. Those guys got to step it up if the Dolphins defense will continue to have success. Now, coming up, we've got more Dolphins news to get into, as well as some quotes from Mike McDaniel. But I want to give a shout out to today's presenting sponsor, Factor Meals. And my goodness, who can believe it's 2024 already? So that means it's time to get started on your resolutions, and Factor Meals can help so that you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes all the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. So you can skip the grocery store, skip the prep work, and oh yeah, take out the cooking fatigue and all the dishes as well. And why not just get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door? There's over 35 meals to choose from per week, and that includes options like keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and so much more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons. You'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions, because it's all about making choices that lead to success, and that's where Factor Meals come in, America's #1 meal delivery service. So don't wait. Head to factormeals.com/FinsChat50 and use that code FinsChat50 to get 50% off. And that's code FinsChat50 at factormeals.com/FinsChat50 to get 50% off. We're not even kidding about that. 50% off. That is a good deal, my friends. So don't wait. Factormeals.com/FinsChat50. I'll tell you this, my favorite part, delivered straight to your door. So it literally takes everything out and just takes 2 minutes to heat up. Also, pro tip here, go ahead and order that Chipotle pork chop. It is to die for. But factormeals.com/FinsChat50. And oh yeah, by the way, we've got the link right in the chat because we love you and we care about you here on Dolphins Today. Now, more news and rumors to get to as it relates to the Dolphins and what the team's plan is moving forward. And let's talk a little about some of the injury updates, starting with linebacker Jerome Baker, who we know was injured against the Washington Commanders, and we know this defense could really use him. And Marcel Louis-Jacques, one of the Dolphins beat writers, reporting that Jerome Baker has returned to practice, which we know that means opens up a 21-day window for him to be activated off of IR. Now, that being said, to be activated off IR would then qualify as the Dolphins' 8th and final activation. That being said, it would end the season for guys like Isaiah Wynn, Savon Ahmed, and the other guys on IR. But if you know this Dolphins team, Jerome Baker is the most likely candidate to be that 8th and final activation, because you look at the production, he has been a staple in the middle of Vic Fangio's defense. He has 2 interceptions, the 2 sacks, but 69 tackles. And what a job Jerome Baker had been doing before the injury. David Long continues the production at the inside linebacker position. And in Jerome Baker's absence, it's been Duke Riley. And that being said, Duke Riley's played well in the run game, but has been exposed in pass coverage a couple of times. So if you're like me, you're probably wondering, what did Mike McDaniel say as far as an update on Jerome Baker? Because you know he's always giving us the most time-sensitive updates that tell you everything you need to know. So here's what Mike McDaniel had to say about Jerome Baker playing versus Buffalo. Time will tell. Thanks, Coach. We appreciate it there. So time will tell if Jerome Baker is, in fact, able to play against Buffalo. That would be a quick activation if he begins practice today and then is ready to play. But that being said, I think we're pretty confident that he'll be available for postseason play. So show Jerome Baker some love. Type 55 in the comments as we anxiously anticipate his return to the Dolphins lineup. I want to remind you that when Jerome Baker is activated and ready to go, you know we'll have the latest on you, and that is why you subscribe. So if you haven't yet and you like what you see, subscribe to the largest Dolphins YouTube community on the internet, because when Dolphins news happens, we have you covered. It doesn't cost anything, and if you don't love it, you can unsubscribe, even though it breaks my heart. Now, from one update on the defensive side to the offensive side of the football, Jalen Waddle. We know he suffered that high ankle sprain in that win over the Cowboys. Did not play against the Baltimore Ravens, and I think you felt his absence as the offense struggled mightily in the second half. And when you look at Jalen Waddle, sometimes his production is overshadowed by Tyreek Hill, and it makes sense because Tyreek Hill's leading the NFL with over 1,700 yards receiving. But Jalen Waddle, not too shabby himself, over 1,000 yards receiving in 14 games because he has missed a couple here and there, has the 4 touchdowns. But the yards per catch is impressive, better than 14 yards. That's a category he led the NFL in last year. And here's what Mike McDaniel had to say about the potential of Jalen Waddle even playing against the Buffalo Bills. He said, "We got done with the walkthrough, which he participated in. We'll take it step by step. He'll be working with the training staff today. If all signs are a go, we'll give him some practice reps a try later this week." So to me, that actually sounds more encouraging, as I was anticipating Waddle not to be available until the playoffs. But if he can play in that Week 18 game against the Bills, obviously that would be a huge, huge bonus for the Miami Dolphins offense. And speaking of the Dolphins offense, we know they were without Raheem Mostert in that Week 17 game against the Baltimore Ravens, and he did not practice today, but I think there still remains some optimism that he'll be able to give it a go against Buffalo on Sunday. Obviously, that's what he's trending towards. And in his absence, you got to give a lot of credit to Devon Achane. I thought he played really well. And remember, Chris Brooks has been activated off the injured reserve as well. And don't forget about Jeff Wilson Jr. So still plenty of weapons at the running back position. But when you got a guy leading the NFL in rushing touchdowns who's already set a franchise record in both rushing touchdowns and total touchdowns, that would be nice to have him in the lineup for the most important regular season game of the season so far. Now, want to continue on with all of the necessary news and rumors around the Miami Dolphins and remind you that when breaking news happens, we've got you covered, and that is why you subscribe. So injury updates, live watch parties, and of course, when breaking news happens, we've got you covered here on Dolphins Today. That is why you subscribe. No, all righty. How's everybody feeling in the chat? I love it. Brian35 says, Raheem the Dream. Absolutely. Prayers up to Tyreek and the family. Absolutely. And I see a question looking for an Xavien update. Xavien Howard likely to miss Sunday's game. We touched on that on yesterday's video. See, that's what, if you miss a day, you miss a lot. You miss a lot. But yes, Xavien Howard likely to miss Sunday's game against the Buffalo Bills. According to multiple reports out there, it would be a huge, huge surprise if he's able to give it a go. All right. Let me know who you got in the chat. I see Jake the Mad Gamer down there, Brian35, Chad Jones, Tom Kiger, Brian35, Joshy. And yes, that's exactly what we just talked about, Joshy. Jerome Baker activated off IR and could play on Sunday. So good stuff all the way there. All right, we're going to preview this Buffalo Bills matchup because it is going to be a good one. There's a chance for the Dolphins to exercise some demons, if you know what I mean. It has not been pretty in the series history between these two teams, but hey, what better time than the present to, like I said, exercise some of those demons. All right, Jack Lauderay, my guy. Should we get her going already? Yeah, let's do it. Who's ready to buckle up and dial it in for a Bills-Dolphins preview? I know I am. All right, let's do it. Hey, the Dolphins have a huge game on Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. In fact, the AFC East title will be decided in that game, and we're going to be live for it. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing. We'll be live on the air an hour before kickoff. And oh, yeah, it's Sunday Night Football because it's going to be a good one. Dolphins and Bills, join us for our live watch party and subscribe to Dolphins Today. All right, I think it's important to remember no matter what happens in this Week 18 matchup, the Dolphins are in the playoffs, and maybe if things don't go as planned, then you could say they're limping into the playoffs. Obviously 2-2 in their last 4 games after that really strong start. But I think all that would be nullified and go away with a convincing and telling victory over the Buffalo Bills. And with that said, it's important to look at how that can play into the overall AFC playoff picture. Now, the Ravens have clinched the number 1 seed at 13-3. They're resting all their starters against Pittsburgh. The Dolphins can secure that number 2 seed where they currently are with a win over the Bills. That being said, there's a whole number of possibilities of who they might play depending on whether they win or lose on Sunday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills. But remember, they're in the playoffs no matter what, but the Dolphins have an AFC East title to claim, and they would with a win over the Bills as well as securing the number 2 seed. Now, the possible opponents for the Miami Dolphins are the Buffalo Bills, the Pittsburgh Steelers, or the Jacksonville Jaguars. With a loss, Miami would fall all the way to the 6th seed, and they would for sure play Kansas City on the road at Arrowhead Stadium. So, get your pen and paper out because you might need to write down all of these potential scenarios based on what happens in Week 18. Let's say the Dolphins win. They beat the Buffalo Bills. There's a chance, in fact, a very good chance, that they would play the Bills again in the first round of the playoffs. If the Dolphins win, Jacksonville beats Tennessee, and Baltimore beats Pittsburgh, that means the Dolphins are playing at home against Buffalo in the first round of the playoffs. So again, write that down because there's a lot of these. If the Dolphins win, Tennessee beats Jacksonville, Pittsburgh beats Baltimore. You guessed it, the Dolphins playing at home against the Bills. If the Dolphins win and the chance to play the Steelers, here's what has to happen. Jacksonville needs to beat Tennessee. Pittsburgh needs to beat Baltimore. Or if the Dolphins win, Tennessee beats Jacksonville and Baltimore beats Pittsburgh. Yes, the Dolphins would play the Steelers at home, who, as I said earlier in the week, I think the Dolphins match up really well against the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's nothing about that offense that scares me, so I wouldn't mind that scenario. But there are a couple other ones. There's a chance they could play Jacksonville at home if the Dolphins win. Tennessee beats Jacksonville, but Baltimore beats Pittsburgh. Yes, they would play the Jacksonville Jaguars. And as I mentioned, the only way the Dolphins would be on the road in the first round of the playoffs is if they lose on Sunday Night Football to the Bills. That means they would take the 6th seed and play against Kansas City in Arrowhead Stadium. So, with that, I want you to let me know who you want the Dolphins to play in the playoffs. I told you mine. I'd probably like the Steelers, but then again, the Dolphins go out and show that they can take care of business against the Bills, I wouldn't mind that as well. But let me know down in the comments who you think the Dolphins match up the best in that first round of the NFL playoffs. Coming up, we'll talk keys to victory in beating the Buffalo Bills in Week 18 and securing the division title for the first time since 2008. But first, I want to tell you about Game Time, helping make today's show possible as the proud presenting sponsor. And by now, you know that Game Time is the only ticketing app you need, and it is the best way to secure the lowest price possible on last-minute ticket deals. That's right. Even the day of the game, you got your friends, your buddies, your girls, whatever it is, and you say, I want to go see the Miami Dolphins in action. You can do it with the Game Time app. In fact, you should do it with the Game Time app because it takes all the stress out of buying tickets for live events. Another thing I like about the app is you get a nice high-resolution photo of exactly where the seat is. So there's no deception, and it also makes it super easy and convenient, just a few clicks of the button on the phone, and next thing you know, you are ready to go. And because we love you and we care about you, we've got $20 off when you download the Game Time app and you use that code PHINSCHAT, PHINSCHAT. That will get you $20 off. And most importantly, it takes all the stress out of buying tickets, and it's the lowest price guaranteed even on last-minute tickets. That's why you use the Game Time app. Also great for concerts. And we're into hoop season, hockey season, you name it. Game Time will get you to the live event you need to be at. That's why you download the Game Time app. Terms do apply, but make sure you download the Game Time app. Use that promo code FINSCHAT, PHINSCHAT, for $20 off. And we've got the link right to that in the comments and description of today's video. Download the Game Time app. Use code FINSCHAT, PHINSCHAT, for $20 off your first purchase. Now, you look at this matchup, NFL Week 18, the Dolphins scoring defense, after giving up 56 to the Ravens, fell all the way to 22nd in the NFL. Scoring offense, still the best in the league at 30 points per game. But on the flip side, this Buffalo Bills team in the top 10 in both scoring offense and scoring defense at 6th and 5th, respectively. A big reason why the Bills have won 4 games in a row. They've been on a tear, and they're even favored at home against the Dolphins, with the Dolphins being at home. And despite all that, the over-under at 50. So depending on who you ask, maybe the Buffalo Bills are riding pretty high on that 4-game winning streak, whereas the Dolphins are 2-2 in their last 4. But hey, you throw the record books out when it's a divisional rival coming into Hard Rock Stadium for the final game of the regular season. And look at that middle note. Josh Allen, 9-2 in his career against the Dolphins. So I mentioned earlier, it's time to exercise those demons. What better time than in Week 18 against the NFL? And the first time these two teams met, that didn't go so well. The Bills won 48-20 over the Dolphins. It wasn't close, my friends. So if I haven't scared you enough, you got to let me know who you got. Type D for Dolphins or B for Bills. I better see a lot of D's in those chats. Now, coming up, let's talk about these keys to victory. First and foremost, Josh Allen is the heartbeat of the Buffalo Bills. And whether you love his style of play, if you're like Tony Romo and you just can't get enough Josh Allen, or you think, guy's a walking turnover, he turns the ball over all the time, make no mistake about it. He is going to make plays. He's going to be reckless. And you know what? That recklessness might lead to some turnovers. But this is kind of wild. He's been making all kinds of plays on the ground and doing the majority of the damage by getting into the end zone by way of running the ball. He needs just one touchdown to tie the Bills' single-season rushing touchdown record. The Dolphins have to figure out a way to contain this man, because when the play breaks down, Josh Allen is tucking the ball and he is running. He is big, he is strong, he is fast, and he has made defenses pay on the ground, especially in the last 4 games. And that makes the loss of Bradley Chubb that much more painful. I can't even say it out loud without getting upset. But Bradley Chubb tearing his ACL in Week 17 of the NFL season against the Ravens, especially in mop-up time. I mean, the Dolphins were down by 30-plus points. The game was out of reach. But like I said, it's time to turn the page. So no Bradley Chubb, no Jalen Phillips, and that means Andrew Van Ginkel, Emmanuel Ogbah, Melvin Ingram, and the rest of the Dolphins defensive line will have to play lights out, disciplined football, and put their best foot forward if the Dolphins are going to have a chance to win this game. So the secondary is important. The linebackers are important. Of course, the defensive line are important. You add it all up, and you got to let me know what's your confidence level in the Dolphins defense. Scale it for me 1 through 10. Let me know how you're feeling about this Dolphins defense. Next part of a victory for the Miami Dolphins and the pieces of the puzzle, establishing the run game, because much has been made of Tua Tagovailoa, right, wrong, or indifferent, and everything in between. Everybody's got an opinion on him. I get that. But let's not forget, for the majority of this season, the Dolphins possess the number 1 rushing offense in the league. They no longer do. But that being said, when they were having success, even as recent as a week ago against the Ravens, a lot of it was on the ground. And that was even in the absence of Raheem Mostert, who the Dolphins are optimistic they will have for Sunday's game against the Baltimore Ravens. Likely to be back, and what a boost that will be, because his numbers are off the chart, having arguably the most decorated season of the Miami Dolphins and them as a franchise. Broke the franchise record with the 18 touchdowns there. Also has been a menace in the receiving game for the Dolphins. Raheem Mostert's value to this offense cannot be overstated. That production in 15 games played. And you look at this running back room as a whole, This is one of the huge strengths of the Dolphins. Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane is a matchup nightmare, and oh yeah, the savvy veteran Jeff Wilson Jr. still has some gas in the tank, and Chris Brooks, activated off IR a few weeks ago, adds to that collection of weapons in the running back room. So that being said, the establishment of the running game will be crucial to the success in Sunday's game. Also crucial, protecting Tua Tagovailoa. And like I said, I've read all the comments. I understand people are fed up with Tua and number one overall. They think he might have lost a step, doesn't have the arm strength. Save it for him, because when Tua has time to throw, and he's shown this, he can be as effective as any passer in the NFL. And we've got the numbers to back it up. I know they're just statistics, but that being said, when a guy is sacked 12 times in 4 games, they're not going to be successful, no matter how good of a quarterback they are. If you look at the stat there on the bottom, 12 sacks in the previous 8 games before 12 sacks in the last 4 games. So I know the offensive line has been depleted by injuries, but that being said, they got to find a way to protect Tua so that he can have a chance to be successful and make plays on the field. And if you look at the numbers versus Buffalo, they are not too kind. 1-5 career versus Buffalo, passer rating below 80, and before the game against the Baltimore Ravens, Tua was probably playing some of his best football, as he had gone 19 quarters without an interception before that game. But that said, the head-to-head, this is tough for Tua, and what a time it would be if he could start to, reverse the tide, if you will, as far as the success Josh Allen has had against the Dolphins versus what Tua's been able to do against the Buffalo Bills. So Josh Allen, 9-2, Tua 1-5 in his career against Buffalo. 31 touchdowns for Josh Allen in 11 games. That's insane, with just the 5 interceptions. Tua 5-5 as far as touchdowns and interceptions go. So not pretty any way you slice it. But I told you we have the numbers to back it up that Tua's having a great year. And here they are. He leads the NFL in passing yards with 4,451. He's second in passing yards per attempt. So none of this dink and dunk garbage that sometimes people try to peg on Tua. That's not happening. Nearly a 70% completion percentage, which, you guessed it, is the best in the National Football League. 28 passing touchdowns, which is tied for the 4th most, and a passer rating over 100, which is the 3rd best in the NFL. So there's a lot of discussion around Tua Tagovailoa, and I know you've got an opinion on it, so let me know down in the comments. I'm asking you, do you believe in Tua Tagovailoa as a guy that can lead the Dolphins to an AFC East Divisional Title and into the playoffs as the number 2 seed? And is he the guy to lead this Dolphins team to where their goals have them in front of them? I say yes, I believe in Tua, but what do you say? Last but certainly not least, the Dolphins need to protect home field. They are unequivocally, no matter how you slice it, a much better team at home than on the road. So securing that number 2 seed, absolutely paramount to the success of the Dolphins. And in order to avoid the 2023 letdown being similar to what we experienced last year, where you have the hot start and then lose all those games down the stretch and then have to go on the road in the playoffs, Miami has a chance to play at home throughout the playoffs as the number 2 seed until they face the number 1 seed, again, Baltimore Ravens, which would mean going back to Baltimore. But you understand how critical it is for Miami to play at home when they're 19-3 in their last 22 games played at Hard Rock Stadium. So I said this at the beginning. I'll say it again. How else would you rather have it than it all coming down to this? One game, earn that number 2 seed, exercise those demons against the Buffalo Bills. I think Miami finds a way to win this one. My score prediction, 28-27. And that is why you subscribe, my friends, because we're going to have a live watch party for this one in Week 18 against the Buffalo Bills. You will not want to miss it. If you can't go to the game, the next best place to be is live with us on Dolphins Today, and it all happens 1 hour before kickoff. So subscribe to the channel and join us for our Week 18 watch party as the AFC East is up for grabs. All righty. I don't know if you feel better or worse when you look at all those numbers, because when you think about Tua being 1-5 against the Bills, you think, my goodness, he's due. No, surely he's not going to go 1-6 against Buffalo. And surely Josh Allen is due to have one of those turnover-ridden games when, in fact, he's 9-2 in his career against the Dolphins. So, how's everybody feeling? I'm going to read some of these chats and read some of these comments and see where we're at as far as the pulse of Dolphins today, because I understand, not everybody feels as good as I do. But that being said, Brian35 says we're close with our score predictions, me and you. All right. Dorian Judge with how he played last game, I don't know. That's fair. Look, last game was not pretty. I think having Raheem Mostert back, if he's able to go, is a huge asset to this offense. And that's not to take anything away from Devon Achane, because I really thought he was the bright spot of the offense in that game. Now, also it'd be awesome if he could have Jalen Waddle back, because you certainly were lacking some explosive plays from the wide receiver core. Defenses can really, more than they already do, just hone in on Tyreek Hill as the only threat. And that's not to take anything away from guys like Cedric Wilson, Braxton Berrios, or even River Craycraft. They just don't provide that dynamic receiving ability that Jalen Waddle does. Josh, he makes a good point right here. Force some turnovers like we did to him in the playoffs. Yep, got to force those turnovers. I think Josh Allen is very susceptible to turning the ball over. That's been his Achilles heel, especially at the beginning of this year. Because remember, Buffalo started 6-6. They've won 4 straight to get to 10-6. Now, some of that was the scheduling perks of being able to play the Chargers and the Patriots, but they do have some big wins in there as well. They absolutely waxed the Cowboys. And again, that was at home. The Cowboys are about as bad as the Dolphins on the road this year. But you understand, that's still a noteworthy win. Need the fullback getting involved. Blocking, that's from tomorrow. Yeah, Alec Ingold, actually, if you watch the opening drive against the Baltimore Ravens, he did get involved. He had a couple of really good blocks, and then Tua found him in the flats for a big gain. That led to the touchdown. So I don't hate that take one bit. All right. I see a score prediction in here from Barry Gomer, 31-28, Buffalo. Oh, that breaks my heart. Where's the faith? Where's the faith? We got 120 people watching right now, and our mailbag, our Ask Anything mailbag is coming right up. You will not want to miss it. There is no doubt about it. And we love that it's on Sunday Night Football, so the rest of the nation can take note of this Dolphins team being a problem in the playoffs if they put forth the performance they're capable of. All right, I'm going to get caught up on all of the chats coming in. What about JPP? Well, he's no longer on the Dolphins. That's from Symbiotic Toot. He was cut like last week, I believe, but there's definitely a video on it, and that's why you subscribe. Chef Jew, 28-17 Fins for the win. I like it. Johnny Lightning, we must sack Josh Allen, and we will. I agree. All right, G-Fat Jake, I will be at the game. Fins up. That's awesome. I love it. If you can't be at the game, or even if you are at the game, we've had people at the game join our live watch parties, and that is always a fun dynamic. Willie says 27-24, Dolphins win. Yes, Brian35 makes a good point. If we can't score, you got to take the points. Because what do I always say? Points don't hurt you. And if you go back to that Cowboys game, I know it wasn't pretty. You didn't want to kick 5 field goals, but ultimately you outlasted one of the better teams in the NFC, even though it wasn't pretty. And the 5 field goals helped propel you to victory. I'm also curious how Mike McDaniel's going to handle short yardage situations. The Dolphins have been one of the worst teams in the NFL in 3rd and 4th and 2 and less. So that's going to be a huge point of emphasis. Christian Reinhardt says, let's shock the world. Yeah, that's a good point. The Dolphins are underdogs in this game, 3-point underdogs at home. And if you subscribe to the theory that the home team's already getting 3 points, it's basically the NFL, or the odds makers, I should say, telling us they think the Bills are 6 points better, maybe even 7, than the Dolphins. So a touchdown underdog at home, miss me with all that. I want to see this Miami team make a statement as well. Yeah, we got enough questions coming in. Anna C. asks who's going to replace Chubb and make a difference. It's a great question, but use that hashtag Dolphins so we can get it up on screen. Our software pulls those hashtag Dolphins and pulls them up on screen. So if you want to get your question answered on the show, use that hashtag Dolphins and we will knock it out. But to answer your question, who's going to replace Chubb and make a difference, I think it falls squarely on Andrew Van Ginkel and Emmanuel Ogbah with a little bit of sprinkle of Melvin Ingram, unless the Dolphins make a signing in the near future, in the coming days. All right. Jack Lauderay, I ask you, are you ready for an Ask Anything mailbag? Born ready. He was born ready. You got to love it. All right. We got 145 people watching. It's time for an Ask Anything mailbag, and it starts right now. Welcome into an Ask Anything mailbag. I am your host, Jake Riepma, and fired up to talk some Dolphins football with you. It's always a good time with the Aqua and Orange, minus Sunday. Yeah, we don't need to talk about that anymore. Let's move forward to this huge game against the Buffalo Bills with the AFC East title on the line. Now, based on the start from the Dolphins, it's kind of unexpected to be in this position, but here we are. No reason to cry over spilled milk, and in the past, it's the past. Let's move forward, turn the page, and focus on Buffalo and beating the Bills so that the Dolphins can secure that number 2 seed. So without further ado, let's get to some questions, and we start with Dolphins Today legend Chad Jones, a member of the Aqua Club and a one-of-a-kind legend on Dolphins Today. Chad Jones, with Chubb out, X and Waddle out, with Jerome Baker coming back, do you think our defense can bounce back? Great question, and honestly, this is one of the thoughts that was keeping me up at night, is how will Vic Fangio find a way to compile a winning combination in the most important game on Sunday in Week 18 of the National Football League? You talk about guys that have to have that next man up mentality. So we'll take it down piece by piece. Bradley Chubb out. That means Andrew Van Ginkel, Emmanuel Ogbah, Melvin Ingram have to find a way to increase the production from the edge rusher position, get pressure on Josh Allen, get to Josh Allen, sack Josh Allen, make him uncomfortable, and I think those three collectively will be up to the task. You can also sprinkle in Zach Ziller, Christian Wilkins, and other guys on the interior to force the pressure up the middle, collapse the pocket, all of that good stuff that's so important in slowing down a prolific offense led by Josh Allen. Now, part of that is the secondary, of course. So no Xavien Howard, likely no Xavien Howard, hasn't been confirmed yet, but that means Jalen Ramsey and veteran Eli Apple have to step up as the outside corners. Kader Kohou as the nickel corner needs to play better. Kader Kohou's shown flashes this season of being an elite nickel corner, and although he hasn't done it against Buffalo, nobody really played well in that first matchup against Buffalo. I'm confident in Vic Fangio to dial up schematically opportunities for Kader Kohou to make plays like he's done in years past, or in weeks past, I should say. Kader Kohou actually has 4 sacks on the season, and dialing up corner blitzes from that nickel spot is one way to deceive the offense and get Kader Kohou involved. Not to mention, I think Jalen Ramsey is as good as it gets as a lockdown corner. I would love to see Jalen Ramsey shadow Stephon Diggs the same way Jalen Ramsey shadowed Garrett Wilson of the New York Jets the second time they played. Because remember, Garrett Wilson, in an entire game being shadowed by Jalen Ramsey, had 1 target. That's how much Jalen Ramsey put the clamps down. So, yes, you lose quite a bit of production on the corner position without Xavien Howard, but adding in Jalen Ramsey and then hoping Eli Apple can pick up the slack is where this Dolphins team is at right now. With Jalen Waddle out, Dolphins have talked about the potential of him playing. So if he is out, that means it's up to Braxton Berrios and River Cracraft. I've also looked at the way Durham Smythe has gotten more involved in the passing games in recent games with certain receivers out. Durham Smythe was the second leading receiver in the game against the Ravens, and I thought played one of his better games despite the Dolphins being severely outplayed. So Durham Smythe at the tight end position, one more way to increase the options for Tua in the passing game. All right, Christine Wilkerson asked, does Miami have a shot at beating Buffalo? Absolutely. I think in a division-deciding game, as cliche as it might sound, you really do throw the record books out. It's about what team wants and can execute better than the others. I think it being at Hard Rock Stadium is a huge bonus for the Dolphins because we know, and the numbers back it up, the Dolphins are a much better team at home. And at this point in the season, I think it's also important to note that every NFL team is dealing with injuries in some capacity. Yes, the Dolphins have been depleted probably more than most teams, but that being said, they have done a great job in most instances, not necessarily against Baltimore, and recency bias is what it is. But in most instances, if you watch Hard Knocks, it seems like collectively they have the mental approach to be able to overcome the obstacles, overcome the injury adversity that they face, and put their best foot forward. And I'm fully counting on Mike McDaniel and his staff to have this team ready to do exactly that in a huge spot, primetime Sunday night football with the AFC East Divisional Title on the line. But I've had my sentiments. I've made my remarks. What say you? Be honest with me. Let me know in the comments. What's your confidence level in the Dolphins win on Sunday against the Bills? Scale it for me, 1 through 10. Great question coming in from tomorrow. Cuber Dolphins. What would your pick for the 2024 NFL Draft be? Very good question, because if you asked me this question 2 weeks ago, I'd say offensive line. Best prospect available at the offensive line. And once that combine comes into form, we'll have a really better idea of who those offensive line candidates might be. But now I'm beginning to think perhaps maybe defensive line is the way to go as a position of need, because you also factor in guys like Christian Wilkins who need to get a deal done or they become a free agent. The Dolphins' cap space is not great. So there's all kinds of factors that go into this, but I still like the idea of solidifying or adding depth to the offensive line. I know Teron Armstead's durability has been such a question this year. Dolphins fans are somewhat fed up with him, even though he's an all-pro caliber talent. His availability, his durability just has not been there. So shoring up the offensive line might be the approach to take. You know what's always the approach to take is Prize Picks. You always have a winning proposition with Prize Picks. It's the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports and the only daily fantasy sports platform you need. It's also the largest independently owned daily platform for daily fantasy sports. And what I love about it is Prize Picks has an insurance policy. That's right. If one of your players that you make a Prize Picks on is injured in the first half, that player is rebooted and removed from the equation. So Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an insurance policy. That's one of the many things I love about it. Also, quick withdrawals, easy payment plans. It's all going down at prizepicks.com/CLNS. And I helped you out last week with some awesome Prize Picks. I'll try and do the same this week. So I'm picking more on Tua Tagovailoa's projected passing yards of 264.5, more on Tyreek Hill's projected wide receiving yards at 94.5, and less on Stephon Diggs. I've got a good feeling Jalen Ramsey is going to put the clamps down on Stephon Diggs. So that's how it works. You pick more or less on a player's projected stat line, and that's when the payments come in. When you go 3 for 3, if you've got a power play, that's going to pay out even better than a flex play. You only need to get 2 out of 3 correct in that. PrizePicks.com/CLNS is where you got to go, because we're offering up to a $100 deposit match. And because we love you and we care about you, we're putting that link right in the chat of today's video, as well as the comments, because we want to make it easy on you. PrizePicks.com/CLNS for up to a $100 deposit match. This one's coming in from GM EV. Should Miami call Dalvin Cook? No. Next question. No. All right, I will humor this question because I know that's the big news and the juicy tweets that are out there surrounding the NFL. Dalvin Cook, it didn't work out with the Jets. They're parting ways. He was the guy we entertained at the beginning of this season. Many people thought he would land in Miami. But when you look at the production of Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, throw in Jeff Wilson, and oh yeah, rookie Chris Brooks, we don't need Dalvin Cook. And frankly, this is going to sound disrespectful, but he is cooked. He's exactly that. Dalvin Cook is cooked. He is washed up. His best football is behind him. I do not want to even entertain that idea. We're going to ride with who we came with. But you get the idea. Dalvin Cook is not the guy that we need to see in a Dolphins uniform. And that's no disrespect. He had a great career, but he's on the back nine of that career. In fact, he might be putting on 18 and heading to the clubhouse as far as his NFL career is concerned, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. This one coming in from Sherry May. What's Zach Zeeler's status? And good news. Well, as good news as we can come up with, because he did not practice. And so that had a lot of people speculating why, but it is simply an illness. He was feeling under the weather. So at this point in the season, why push him to go through a practice if he's not feeling up to it? Rest, get the bug out of you, and be ready to go for Sunday. So I know it's just kind of a short answer, but the explanation is he didn't practice because he was under the weather and feeling a little bit sick. But my inclination is that he'll be fine for Sunday. As always, we remind you that this is your one-stop shop for all things Miami Dolphins. It does not matter the time of day, the time of year. If there's Dolphins news, when there's Dolphins news, we have you covered on all angles. That's why you subscribe. Plus, the price is right. It's 100% free. And even though it would break my heart, let's say you subscribe, you don't love what you see, you don't love the Dolphins, you don't love daily content, you don't love live watch parties or live shows, then you can unsubscribe. But like I said, that would break my heart. But we here at Dolphins Today by Chat Sports love bringing you Dolphins news, rumors every single day, and that is why you subscribe. This one's coming in from Derek Washington with our injuries on the defensive side of the ball. How confident do you think we will pan out in the playoffs? It's a good question, Derek, and I think Sunday's outcome will tell us not all we need to know. I'm not ready to punt on the season if they lose and then have to go to Kansas City in the first round because, frankly, the Chiefs haven't been really good, and I would love an opportunity for a rematch against the Chiefs because, remember, the Dolphins lost to the Chiefs in Germany in a game that came down to the wire. The Dolphins were driving down by one score, couldn't get it to go, and we know what happened on that fourth down. The snap went off to his hands and so on and so forth. But that Dolphins defense held the Chiefs completely scoreless in the second half. In fact, only the two offensive touchdowns, the 21 points were from, or one was from a defensive touchdown. So you get the idea. I like the way the Dolphins match up against the Chiefs, who are not as good as they have been in past years, especially, of course, as the defending champs. But that said, I believe at this point in the NFL, when you have good on good, you have the playoffs forming, anybody can beat anybody. It's a cliche, but any given Sunday certainly rings true. And with that being said, regardless of the outcome on Sunday, I feel confident that the Dolphins moving forward can, in fact, be better than they were last year. They can win some playoff games and, again, go from there. Staying healthy has been a huge challenge for this Dolphins team, but my hope and my prayer is that the injury gods will finally be on the side of the Miami Dolphins. This one from Mark Cardinale. Can this current O-line hold up against the Bills' pass rush? Seems like the Ravens had pressure on Tua all day last Saturday. They absolutely have, and they absolutely did, I should say. And unfortunately, the Dolphins' offensive line, the production has kind of plummeted, especially in the last 4 games. Tua's been sacked 12 times in the last 4 games, whereas the previous 8 games, he had only been sacked 12 times. So that's double the amount of sacks this offensive line has been giving up. A lot of it has to do with the injuries. Obviously, no Connor Williams, and Rob Hunt's been out for the last 4 weeks, and Isaiah Wynn's been out. Isaiah Wynn's season likely over, but Rob Hunt practiced this week, and the Dolphins are very optimistic that Rob Hunt will be able to play. So you pair him with Teron Armstead, Lester Cotton, Liam Eichenberg, who's kind of had a roller coaster season, as well as Rob Hunt at the right guard position, then Austin Jackson at the right tackle. And I feel pretty good about that offensive line. Will it be perfect? Probably not, but protecting Tua in the passing game will be paramount, and I feel good about the Dolphins' ability to run block, as Miami's rushing attack has been one of the best all season long. Where does this Dolphins offense rank historically, asked Fins fan for life? And I'm glad you asked, because they're very, very close to being the Dolphins' best offense in the history of the franchise. I came across this on Twitter and wanted to have it in the banks ready to share with you from Joe Shad. 390 yards of offense is what the Dolphins need on Sunday against the Bills to surpass the 84 Dan Marino-led team for the franchise record in total yards. Now, again, it's in a 17-game schedule compared to the 16-game schedule that it used to be, but the idea is this offense historically has the chance to be the best ever, and that would also be the fifth best total yards production by a team in NFL history. So for a lot of the year, they were trending to be the greatest offense ever. They took some steps back in their production, obviously. But those first 5 games of the season, they were on pace to outgain the greatest show on turf, that 99-2000 Rams team led by Kurt Warner. And they haven't quite surpassed them, but if they can get 390 yards, at least 390 yards, they would be the fifth best offense all time in NFL history, which is absolutely crazy to think about. So I'm asking you, do you think the Dolphins can break the franchise record? They need 390 yards. They average 410 yards per offense. So they just get their average, they would surpass that easily. So type Y for yes or N for no. Chef Zhu's in the house. What up, Chef Zhu? My guy, my guy. Which players could be a key factor on both sides of the ball? I love this question, so I'm going to give you an obvious one. Tyreek Hill on the offense. I think he's the most dynamic player in the NFL, and Mike McDaniel and company have to find a way to creatively get him the ball, and defenses are taking him away. Obviously, they're playing 2 high safeties with man coverage underneath, but if you go back to that game against Washington, if a team would be as foolish as to try to play him one-on-one man coverage, then that makes it easy. But obviously, that's probably not going to be the case, so it's up to Mike McDaniel to find ways to get him involved. He had 99 yards receiving against Baltimore, but I think he's the number one X factor on offense. Obviously, you throw Tua into that category as well. Now, an under-the-radar one I want to give to you is Durham Smythe, the tight end, and it seems like defenses leave the tight end with the host of weapons that the Dolphins have when you think about stopping Tyreek Hill, stopping Raheem Mostert, stopping Devon Achane. That leaves the tight end position susceptible to be single coverage by a linebacker or so on and so forth. And Durham Smythe, quietly but steadily, has started to become a more recognizable component of this offense, a more significant part of the production. So I hope and look for Durham Smythe to have a big game against the Buffalo Bills. Now, defensively, I'm going to say Jalen Ramsey, because that's an all-pro caliber talent that has proven he can take the opponent's best receiver completely out of it. Look at Garrett Wilson. I know he had Zach Wilson and Trevor Siemian throwing to him, but he was locked down, completely locked down on Garrett Wilson. And Jalen Ramsey, prior to that game against the Jets, in his first 7 games, had 3 interceptions, but he also was averaging less than 2 yards a catch on the opponent receiver, or less than 2 catches a game, I should say, on the opponent receiver that he was guarding. So not only is he taking them out of the game, but the quarterback's not even looking his way. So if Jalen Ramsey can lock down Stephon Diggs, I would love to see Vic Fangio utilize that type of man-on-man coverage because Jalen Ramsey is so good. Another guy that I think will be absolutely crucial on the defensive side, Andrew Van Ginkel. In the absence of Bradley Chubb, and of course Jalen Phillips, both out with injuries, Andrew Van Ginkel then becomes, in my opinion, your most talented pass rusher. How about a super chat? That's always a good way to get on the Ask Anything mailbag. This one coming in from Zach Osinksa, and you never forget your first. It's a first-time super chat. You can remember this forever. Happy 2024, Zach. You are our first super chat of 2024. How about that? Crazy stuff. Stay in the second seed and beat the Steelers. I agree. That would be the ideal situation if, in fact, the Dolphins can beat the Bills on Sunday, secure that number 2 seed, and then await the results from the rest of Week 18. But shout out to Zach. Appreciate your support of Dolphins Today. And as we always do, we remind you that you can subscribe to this channel at youtube.com/Dolphins News. That is where the magic happens. We've got a live watch party for Sunday's game against the Buffalo Bills. We'll be on an hour before kickoff. And my friends, you won't want to miss it. A couple more to wrap it up here. Another super chat coming in from JB. Should the Finns consider signing JPP with Chubb out? That's kind of ironic, I guess, because obviously Jason Pierre-Paul was a part of this Dolphins team for really a short stint, only 2 or 3 weeks, played in 2 games, really not any production there. And I think with the change of circumstances, with Chubb now being out for the season, you certainly entertain the idea of bringing back an additional edge rusher. And a guy like JPP, hey, 2 Super Bowls, 1 with the Giants, 1 with the Bucs. Certainly a lot of postseason experience there. So I wouldn't hate that. It just would be kind of wild to think, hey, you were on the team, we cut you, and now you're back on the team because this guy got injured. But hey, stranger things have happened. So no, I don't hate that idea, and I'm not against that. So appreciate your support of the show, JB. And as a reminder, subscribe to Dolphins Today. Join the largest Dolphins YouTube community on the internet. And let's go, Dolphins. Beat the Bills. Woo! How is everybody feeling? Hello, Paul Grice. Dolphins need to run heavy, keep Allen on the sidelines. I like our run game. I do as well. Mike Jones says, bring on the Chiefs. Oh, no, Mike, no. South to West says, let's go Dolphins. Yes, I really feel good about this game. At home, 19-3 in your last 22 home games. Tua much better at home than on the road. And it's time to exercise those demons against those pesky Buffalo Bills. That being said, I think Hard Rock Stadium at night, the Dolphins lost that Monday Night Football game against the Tennessee Titans. So another opportunity to exercise some demons there as well. A lot hanging in the balance. And boy, it could go either way. That's why you want to join us for our watch party. It's going to be a blast. We'll have a ton of stuff planned for you. As always, come early, get loud, and let's cheer our Dolphins on to victory and hopefully an AFC East title as well. Well, I shouldn't say hopefully. If the Dolphins win, then they win the AFC East. That's how that works, Jake. Thank you. All right. Let's hit 200 likes. 100 likes before we leave. That's the word from producer Jack, because we can't go anywhere, let you go on with your afternoon until we get up to 100 likes. And that also keeps me from getting fired here at Chat Sports. They have threatened that on plenty of occasions. They say, Reem, if you don't get 100 likes, out of here. Your ass is grass. So there we go. We are 4 away. And once we get to that 100 likes, we can get on with our afternoon. And as Chad Jones put it, see y'all Sunday night. Shout out to Derek Washington as well as Lorenzo the Animator. Magic Dragon Wizard. What's up? Ricardamente says, probably already said, but the Dolphins are a different team than they were when they played the Bills early in the season. Let's bust the Bulls. Yeah, completely different team in many different aspects. It will actually look like a totally new team. But South to West, shout out to you. He says, love this channel and the content. That's what we love to hear. Shout out to producer Jack. We also have Colin in the building training. How about that, sports fans? We're adding to the talented group here at Chat Sports. And that is a testament to each and every one of you out there helping us keep the lights on at Chat Sports, subscribing to the content, and that's what we're here for, bringing you daily Dolphins content and that is what we love. There is no doubt about that. So do whatever you got to do. Tape up the ankles, tape up the wrists, whatever it is. Meditate, hot tub, cold tub, start running, whatever you got to do. Be ready to go on Sunday because the Miami Dolphins are going to play for 60 minutes and try to earn that AFC East Divisional Title. And Mike McDaniel's going to call me for the pregame speech because I've been working on it. I'm ready to go, and I'm gonna pound the chalkboard, break some whiteboards, headbutt some people, you name it. I am ready to go. But, hey, have a great rest of your day, everybody. We'll be back with you tomorrow and Friday and Saturday and Sunday because, we got Dolphins daily videos for you, daily Dolphins content. And when breaking news happens, we've got you covered. And we'll see you next time on Dolphins Today.